I tell you, I've had some experiences with Discord, man. I'm not gonna lie, man.
Oh yeah,
dude. Oh yeah, I had to nuke mine. I had to nuke that shit. Like the kind of people who were just like showing up in my Discord were just like the almost the worst kind of human beings. Like it's weird that Discord allows you to get close to people, right? And then you get close to them and you get to be their friends, and then they start like posting like pictures of black people being lynched in your fucking Discord, and you're just like, dude, get the fuck out of here.
Jesus, that's pretty intense. Like, wow.
Who are you, and what did you do with the person that was cool?
Yeah, I was looking for your Discord actually, because there are a few links here and there from like old channels and stuff, and I tried clicking on them, it didn't work anymore. I was like, oh, I wonder what happened to that Discord. But
all I did one day was post a picture of like an atomic bomb going off and said, "See you later, guys," and then deleted it.
Too far. Good.
And then I just like invited a bunch of like people who are actually like friends from the channel back onto the channel. It was just really strange. Like, dude, the reason I do not have politics on my channel anymore is just because people cannot handle it. Just mentally can't handle the idea of someone that they like thinking differently from them. It's such a bizarre thing.
Yeah, I haven't been like a big Twitter person myself until kind of recently as I started doing more of this, but you kind of really see the cesspool online of people not being able to have a conversation like a normal human, decent conversation, and it's bad. Yeah. It can be bad. Are we recording, by the way? I think record. Yeah. Okay, that's all right then, because we already started off on a really good discussion. I wasn't sure if we were capturing it.
Oh yeah, we got it.
Yeah.
No, it's annoying to me because I like to talk to people and hear their opinions, and I want to hear everything about them and why they think the way they think and everything. But the minute you start telling them what you think, it's almost like, oh, you can't think that way. I've got to fix you. And it's like an abusive relationship.
Yeah. Let me educate you.
I can fix him. He'll be better. I'll just give him a year. I'll fix him. He'll get better. It's like, no.
The Discords that I'm a part of pretty fair. I think they're a lot smaller, so I don't know how big in scope yours was, like, you know, how busy it was. Maybe that's when it becomes a bit out of hand. The smaller ones, I find, really quite good. It was a couple hundred
people. It was about like 200 or 300 people, I think.
Okay, that's kind of a shame. I thought by then it would still be pretty tame. But
well, you know what they say, it's like 51% of our population are a bunch of assholes. So, you know, you don't have to get that many people into one place before you find an asshole.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The specialized Discords I quite enjoy a lot. There's two that I'm kind of involved in. I don't know if you've heard of Oni Blackmage. He does some pretty good videos. He does like he calls them recapitations, where he'll break down the story of a game into like just really condensed into like 20 minutes if he can, with the main story beats. And all the people in there are really nice. And I'm a part of a Discord for Dreamcast enthusiast, I would say. I like the Dreamcast. And I joined that one. And there's a podcast of people, some people from the UK who do a podcast about the Dreamcast. And I bought one of their books. They did this thing called Dreamcast Year 1, and they're making like these small books for each year the Dreamcast was out, and like the main games of that and the developments of the console, which is really cool. But,
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I had a dream. I bought a Dreamcast instead of paying my rent one year, and big mistake. Yeah, I regret that decision. I still have one, actually. My friend is like a collector of old consoles. Crazy Geezer, I think his channel name is. He's small right now, but he's still trying to figure out what he wants to do. But he collects like all the old ones, and he had like 2 Dreamcasts just like sitting around. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take one.
Damn.
He was like, yeah, I'll just ship it over to you.
Wow.
I was like, do you have any Saturns?
Yeah.
How many Sega Saturns do you have? I'll take all of them.
PlayStation 5 pre-orders, you got 2 down? I'll take 1.
Well, dude, I mean, have you ever seen like how much a Sega Saturn goes for right now?
I haven't. I'm not quite sure they're worth, actually.
Yeah, it's a little insane. They're worth a lot of money.
I hope it's not the one.
especially like the old games like what is it, Shining Force? Like that's like one of my mainline. Like I'll shoot that right into my veins. I love Shining Force. And the third one that they released for Sega Saturn is so rare now at this point. I think it goes for like $300 or $400.
Damn.
Yeah.
Pretty nice. I sold most of my gaming consoles a couple of years back. I was kind of moving out the house. I was going abroad for a bit, getting some money together. And I think we had some old Sega consoles. I don't think it was a Saturn. It was one of the other ones. We had I think it was a Sega CD. Maybe.
Oh yeah, the Sega CD, the glorified FMV player. Yeah.
Yeah, I never really played it. It was more my brother's thing for that because he's a bit older than I am, and that was more his thing. So I think it was a Saturn. But the one console we couldn't sell was the Dreamcast, and it was. And me and my brother didn't even talk about it. We just both instinctively didn't want to sell that one console. We sold the Sega CD, we sold the Game Gear, we sold the N64, we sold PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, all that stuff. But the Dreamcast, for some reason, we just couldn't part ways with it. And I have no idea why.
Too many good games.
Yeah, I went back and I got an emulator for Power Stone to give a play of that one. Don't know if you ever played the Power Stone.
Oh, man. I love Power Stone, man. They released like 4 of them.
Did they? I thought they released 2.
Oh yeah. No, they
Really?
released some later ones, I think on like PlayStation 2 or something.
What? Yeah. I had no idea.
Yeah, something like that. I remember seeing like Power Stone 4 and it was just ridiculous looking. Yeah.
I had no idea that was a thing. I'll have to get that to Google and find out. But when I started playing it, it was a blast from the past and it was amazing. But I forgot how bad the English translation was. Like they only translated the menus and stuff and the narrator, and the English just doesn't make sense. It was directly from Japanese or something. It sounds really dumb.
Well, a lot of those old Japanese games have like just really jank translations.
They do, and. Another reason why I remember that game is it was the game that I was playing when 9/11 happened. And I remember it very distinctively because I was actually quite young at the time. I would have been 7 years old. And I felt more annoyed that my grandpa wanted to use the television to watch the news. Because I was on the final boss. I was like, can you just wait 10 minutes? But,
where were you when it was 9/11? I was playing video games.
Yeah.
I was asleep.
Oh.
I was asleep and then I woke up and I saw a plane hit a building. And I broke out in a cold sweat because I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, shit.
I'm going to get deployed. Shit. Because here I was thinking I was going to get free college. And
oh,
no.
Is that when you were part of the army, that 1 year stint when you were...
I was in for 4 years.
Oh, 4 years. Oh, okay. I had a question about that, actually, because I was watching one of your videos. Was it 19 when you joined the army?
Yeah, I was 19, and I think I got out when I was 21 or 22. I know I didn't finish.
Okay.
Because I was sort of an asshole as a kid, especially as a young 20-year-old. And I think it went down something like this. I tore off my unit patch and threw it at my commanding officer and told him to go fuck himself.
Oh, so they didn't invite you back?
Yeah, they were like, you know what, we're not going to have any more of that. You can...
And why was that? What caused that after those 4 years for you to throw your badge at your commander?
Well, okay, so here's the situation. My unit commander was also my math teacher when I was in high school. So this guy did not like me whatsoever. And he had every right to, because I was an asshole. Okay. I mean, if you're an asshole kid, you're bound to cause some problems. Mm-hmm. And he was having none of my shit. And then he demoted me at one point because I got a ticket driving one of the 4 tons. And yeah, that was pretty much the end of that. They demoted me, and I was like, "Fuck this place! I'm out of here. I'm better than this, man. You don't appreciate how good I am." I'm just like, "Oh, fuck this! I'm out." But it was funny. It's like when you're in the National Guard, it's different from the Army because when you're in the Army, everything's tight, everything is scheduled, and there's still problems, of course, in regular Army. But whatever problems the regular Army has, the National Guard has it about 10 times worse. Okay. Like when I was I did this, I was a 31 Romeo, and it was communications, right? So we had these big-ass communication shelters that we'd drive out on Humvees, and we'd set up these big antennas that would shoot signal line of sight to each other, and we had trunk encryption devices and patch panels. It's all like technology from the 70s, so it's all like highly... technical and rote memorization is a very good skill to have. Okay. Now, I was very good at that job, and we didn't train, like we didn't go out on training missions to like practice any of this stuff for months at a time. So we might go out maybe once or twice a year to get a signal shot in. Well, of course, if you do that, nobody in your unit's going to remember their fucking job.
No.
So we're over at Fort Dix in New Jersey. I'm on one side of Fort Dix and everybody else is on the other side of Fort Dix. And we're not supposed to like, you know, get on our cell phone and call each other and be like, hey, your shit's fucked up. Because you're not going to be doing that in the field.
No.
So I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm looking at my battle buddy and I'm like, bro, these motherfuckers got this shit in loop back. So what that means is you shoot a signal to them and it just sits in their shelter. Okay. It never goes anywhere. So I'm like, I'm going to have to get in the fucking Humvee and drive all the way to fuck over there. So I drove all the way to fuck over there, knocked on their door. They opened it up. I didn't say shit. I just walked in, took their shit out of loop back out of their patch panel and walked back to my Humvee and left without explanation. And then called them on the phone and they were like, hello? And I was like, are you hearing me? Yeah, we can hear you. Okay, bye. Click. Like, that's the kind of guy I was at like 22. I was just like, I am so fucking over all of this shit.
And how long is a stint in the army for you to finish, as it were? Like, I'm not quite familiar with how the army works myself.
So National Guard's like 6 years, and then you have 2 years of inactive duty, which is just another word for them saying we can call you up at any time and tell you to get your shit ready and you're deploying. So I still had to do the inactive, even though I wasn't technically in the army anymore. And but for regular army, it's like 2 years, maybe 2 years, 4 years, depending on the contract you sign and the bonus you get.
Okay. And what was the catalyst to join the army in the first place?
I needed money. I just needed money. I wanted to go to school, and I was going to go for an art degree. And yeah, that didn't work out. And they looked at my Goku art and my anime, and they were like, "This isn't good enough."
Oh, dear. What did your commanding officer think of your anime? Was he a fan?
He wasn't a fan of anything
No.
I did. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
I had a teacher at school who, a PE teacher, so a physical education teacher, sports, I don't know what you say in America, and he used to be part of the army, but he was a chef. And he kept banging on about how like he was, on the front lines and stuff, but he was in the kitchen. I don't know if it's the same thing. I'm probably sure he had to do basic training and stuff, but...
Yeah. No, he was on the front lines, all right. Yeah. He was preventing people from getting a second serving of eggs.
Yes. And with your time in the military, you mentioned it in one of your videos, and one of the points you made about it was you said you noticed yourself changing in lots of small ways over your time there. What did you specifically notice about yourself changing in that time? When you were a rambunctious 19 to 21-year-old.
Well, first of all, I mean, the whole point. Okay, so I'll tell you the whole point for me going in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the whole point was for me to just kind of find myself, because at that time I was just all over the fucking place. I mean, I was like breaking into houses and cars and shit. I was bad.
Oh shit, really? Wow,
like,
damn.
Oh yeah. And then one day I just kind of like, I stopped for a minute and I read this book called Siddhartha. I don't know if you've ever read it.
No, I haven't heard of that one.
It's about the Buddha. It's a German writer. I think I probably don't remember his name, so I'm not going to say it.
Okay.
Just look up Siddhartha. It's about the Buddha, and it's about his journey from being like a prince to being a ferry boat person, and sitting under the tree and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I got it in my head that if I was going to really find out who I was, because I came from a really fucked up upbringing. Like, I had an abusive stepfather who used to like put me and my mother through walls and shit. He ended up going to prison for beating a woman almost to death. His name was Dennis Singleton. You can actually look him up. He almost beat a hooker to death in a hotel. Fucking crazy maniac. And he died in prison. And I didn't really know who I was, because when you go through traumatic experiences, you don't really know who you are. You're somebody else, but you're not who you're meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of in a state of limbo, really, personality limbo. And some people live their whole lives in that personality limbo and don't know who the hell they are because, who they were has been informed by trauma.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what would be good is to have the military strip everything away from me that I think is me and then teach me how to be somebody else. So I went in and my mom was my recruiter and the guy who was swearing me in, they set you aside and they go, okay, so, what boot camp do you want to go to? Now, maybe other people didn't have this choice. Maybe they just went to wherever the hell they went. But my mom was my recruiter, so I had my choice of boot camps. Normally, that means you go to like Fort Jordan or Jackson or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
The one where you can like hold up a stress card and say, I'm stressed out. I want to go to the doctor.
Okay.
Right? Yes. But I was like, well, what's the hardest boot camp that you got? And they were like, Fort Benning. I said, that's what I want. And they sent me to Fort Benning, which is ranger training, where they do all the ranger training and shit. And it was rough.
Yeah.
It was real rough. Like when we got there, you get this a lot in processing. So when you're in processing, it's like the stage before boot camp. And the stage before boot camp is them trying to figure out if you're going to be able to hack it.
Yeah.
So that they leave you there intentionally for like 18 days with nothing to do. And people were like trying to fucking kill themselves. And
wow.
It's really
Jeez.
it's really an interesting character study because you get guys that are going there and they act all tough and shit, and then they try to swallow a bottle of fucking Tylenol, not knowing that's not going to kill you, number one.
Oh.
It's just going to make your stomach hurt a lot.
Oh, dear.
And, we were having people like dropping left and right. And the facilities that we were in had sewage backing up into the barracks. So we just like had to live with the smell of piss and shit every day. And we did that for 18 days. And then at the end of it, you're supposed to take a physical fitness test. And they don't let you work out until the physical fitness test because they don't want you to drop dead in the middle of the barracks and then, and be responsible for it because you're not officially a soldier yet. And the reason why they do all that is because once you sign the papers, once you get in processed and you start your first day in boot camp, you have signed away every one of your rights as a citizen. Every one of them. You cannot sue the military. You cannot do shit.
Mm-hmm. So
that's why they wait, because they don't want you to drop dead and then sue. Or your parents sue.
Yeah.
You can't sue. You're dead. So in processing is like one thing. You go there, you basically get the gist. Somebody shoots you in the ass with a needle, and then you're off to the next adventure. So we're on the bus. We got our rucksacks, right? Rucksacks are like the backpacks, and like 80 pounds worth of our shit that we brought with us inside of rucksacks, inside of bags. And we're standing on the bus because you can't really sit down. But I was also told, don't sit down by somebody. They were like, whatever you do, don't be sitting down when the drill sergeant comes on the bus. I had the inside track,
Yeah.
And drill sergeant comes on, Drill Sergeant White, I'll never forget him. He's this little short white dude with just jacked, just no neck, just tiny little dude, but no neck and huge shoulders. And he goes, get the fuck off my bus! Get the fuck off my bus! And he starts grabbing dudes. And the bus parked in front of a tree on purpose because he was taking people and throwing them into the tree. And then they would fall down with their rucksacks on and just like turtle for like 5 good minutes while this, huge jacked white dude is like screaming over, get up, get the fuck off the ground. It was stressful, dude. And then, you do all your boot camp stuff and then you get out and then you're just like, oh, so this is just normal. It's just like a normal job, except they piss test you and you could go to prison if you violate the wrong rule. And the most obscure rule that people don't know about, which is really bizarre, is that in the UCMJ, it's illegal to have sex in any other position but missionary.
No way. No, that's...
I swear to God. Everything else is considered sodomy, and you could get put in a brig for that.
So that's written down somewhere, like on the paper you signed?
It's just in the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
That's incredible. That's insane.
But yeah, and I joined, and I was kind of a ghost the entire time. None of the drill sergeants knew my name, which was great. And
can't call you out, I suppose.
What's that?
I can't call you out on something if they're, Jenkins, do me 500 push-ups. They don't know your name, so skip past you.
Right. No. Yeah, no, I kind of just ghosted by. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when my mom showed up in her fucking dress blues, they were like, "Who the fuck is this?" And they like came over and they were like, "Who are you, Private? I don't remember you ever being here." I was like, "That's because I was very good. I was a very nice boy. I did not make any trouble."
Except at the very end when you throw your badge at the drill sergeant.
Well, yeah, no, of course.
So when you kind of started for the army, the picture I'm kind of painting, with the story of the Buddha itself is they were kind of contained in these walls and they had everything they need and everything they wanted and they didn't see the outside world because of that. But kind of your perspective on that was you were kind of kept in these walls but for the wrong reasons and you wanted to get out into the real world to see it for what it really was.
Well, yeah. I wanted to travel. I wanted to be in a different state, maybe a different country. I wanted to, for once, be responsible for being who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like you give up responsibility for a little while to a drill sergeant to tell you who you are. And then the reaction to that is to revolt against who they made you into and become your own person. But that process takes a really long time when you don't realize that you've been sort of brainwashed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've been an atheist probably my whole life except for the 2 or 3 years when I was in the military.
Wow, that's powerful stuff.
Well, because they would say things like, okay, this weekend there's church services at this time and this time. And just so happened to be at the same time, they'd say, yeah, we also have extra duty. So you guys are going to be out digging ditches and scrubbing the floors. So you can guess what the hell I was doing.
Oh, yeah.
On the weekends. I was at church. And your mind is so malleable at that time because you're used to just accepting at this point what people were telling you because you have to. Because this isn't like an environment where you can ask questions.
No.
Right. So your brain is a little more malleable at that point and a little more accepting of things. And I started to find myself buying into things I wouldn't previously buy into. Hence the whole hypernormalization video that you were referencing. It's like, that's kind of what happened to me. So once I sort of like unfucked my brain, unpacked everything and said, okay, like what belongs in my brain and what doesn't, I started realizing that that's kind of the way of a lot of things like school. A lot of the things we do here in the States is kind of based on that philosophy of acceptance either through apathy or acceptance through drilling. Just drilling it into your head, or the general apathy of your average working man, like if you're working 60, 70 hours a week, you don't have time to sit around and think about how you feel.
No, it's not much time to contemplate.
Not at all. Yeah. So, that's just kind of how I feel about the general discourse with politics and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of how I came out of the military.
And then when you came out of the military, what did you do from then moving forward? So you've kind of tried to find out who you are in a bit more ways, and you realize there are these things about me that I don't agree with or have been drilled into me. What did you take from that, and where did you go moving forward?
Well, I'll tell you this. I never stayed in one place for too long. I kind of moved around a lot. I've driven across country 8 times. So like from one end of the country to the other end of the country.
Good Lord.
And I've done it enough so that I could see every state on the way. And my destination was always California.
Oh, nice.
Or it was always Delaware, And eventually it was somewhere around 2012. I would say 2010 to 2014 was like a period of like really big emotional growth for me. Because I went through a phase of unemployment because the recession of 2012 hit me really hard.
Oh, yeah.
And with all this time on my hands, I started doing a lot more training. I was into boxing previous to that, but I started saying, like, what if I just give a go at training people in boxing? And I found this nice little private gym that was in a one of those rental garages, you know?
Okay, yeah.
Like a storage facility.
Yeah.
And they had a boxing ring in there, and they had heavy bags and all that stuff. And went in there, met a lot of really great people, started training people, and then next thing I know, I'm joining like kung fu groups, and then we're doing stunts, and then I get into the stunt world, and I'm showing up at like these parties. We used to have these parties where it'd be like, all day today we're going to be barbecuing, drinking, and doing wire pulls. And wire pulls are like one guy's in a tree with a wire and a pulley, and another person's tied up to a wire vest, and they're, you know, jumping up in the air, or they're doing like kicks, or like I used to do this thing where you wrap the wire around your body, and when somebody jumps, you spin out of it like a corkscrew.
Oh, okay.
And then you land like a, you know, superhero or whatever. And it was basically a way for us to show what we could do to coordinators, like stunt coordinators who were recruiting for movies in LA. And then we do another one like High Falls at Witherall's house down in, God, where did he live? I forget. Anyway, he had like this horse farm because I think he used to do horse stunts and high falls. And he had a big high fall tower. It was like a 40-foot high fall tower in his backyard. And we used to go there and just like do high falls all day. And then we'd all go to Matt's gym and do, you know, acrobatics and kicks and stuff. And I just got really into that community and tried to make a go at doing that for a living. But that was a really big period for me because I met a lot of people who were very zen. Because those kind of people are always very centered and focused and kind of zen. And, it kind of calmed me a bit.
Okay,
you know?
That's cool. And so did you get a job as a stuntman from you know, jumping from trees in a park at a barbecue? Did it ever lead anywhere for you?
I got a few jobs here and there.
Yeah.
Never enough to pay the bills. Some extra work here and there, which just means you do like fight choreography in the background of movies.
Okay. Anything noteworthy that I may recognize?
Let's see. Not really. No, just a bunch of like independent films and stuff.
Okay.
But I was pretty close. I would say I was pretty close to it because I started making friends with like, so for instance, I can't remember his name now, but it was Tony something.
Okay.
And of course, I'm not going to remember his
actually
fucking
was
name.
Tony something.
It was Tony something. And he had this house in Topanga Canyon, and he used to do fight choreography there, but like traditional Western style fight choreography. And he invited us back. He was just like, yeah, come every weekend and you can get work. But what ended up happening is we just went broke. We had to leave, and I ended up going to Minnesota, and that really sucked because that felt like that was my opportunity. But you know how it is.
Yeah.
So I've done a lot of shit. I've done photography. I've done stunt work. I've done just about everything that I've ever desired to do, which has kind of led me to where I am today, which is just like now I'm doing what I actually want to do, and I'm making money doing it, and that makes me happy.
So primarily writing.
Yeah. Because previous to that, it was just I'm doing this shit for a paycheck, and that's it. And now it's like I'm doing it because I like it, and I get paid. Yay!
Living the dream. And you used to work at EA, is that right?
Yeah, I worked there for about 4 years almost.
And what were you doing at EA?
Nothing important.
Oh,
that's kind of why I left. So my job was I was a UX, which is user experience lab technician.
Okay.
And I maintain the computer lab, which we use to do tests with participants. So any game that has come out from EA in the last 5 or 6 years has gone through some form of user experience testing where people come in and go, I didn't like the way that she jumps. It feels awkward.
Yes,
and
the experts.
Yes, they give their somewhat useless opinions, and then their researchers have to interpret what that means, right? Like, what does that actually mean? Like, what system do they actually have a problem with?
Oh, I see. Okay, so they're really vague about their points, and you have to say, okay, this is what it means in terms of the controls and the system itself.
Well, yeah. No, I mean, not to mention, like, I don't want to have a whole bunch of people messaging me that I'm an asshole, but the guy from Blizzard who said people don't know what they want, he's right.
Oh, yeah?
They don't. Yeah, half of them can't even form coherent fucking sentences. Like, it's really silly. Like, you'll sit there and you'll read some of these surveys and just be like, what the fuck was this dude trying to say? You can't make heads or tails of it. So, yeah, their job is basically interpreting the data and trying to figure out what it means.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like the computer janitor. That's what I used to call myself, a computer janitor.
So you were making sure all the systems were working, up to spec and doing the jobs they have to do.
Yeah. And I never really felt at home in EA.
No?
I felt like I was a crotchety old man working around a bunch of 20-year-olds. Like, nobody's happy here. They're not happy. I'm not happy. Why am I here?
Well, that's pretty cool, saying you get to work at EA. Like, I imagine lots of gamers, in a general sense, be like, oh, you work for a gaming company. That's so cool. And I suppose you can kind of say that.
You know what I used to get? Oh, God, you work for EA? I'm sorry.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I used to get mostly. And after you get about like the 100th person going, oh, God, you work for EA, huh? What is it like to work for the devil?
Yes.
After you hear that for the 100th time, you just want to start smacking people.
Yeah. There's actually quite a lot of gaming companies where I live in Montreal in Canada right now. And there's
nice.
Ubisoft
I'm about
Montreal.
to be your neighbor here pretty soon, I think.
Are you moving up to Canada?
I might be, yeah. I might be moving to British Columbia, actually.
Oh, okay. Quite far, neighbors.
Well, yeah.
But I've heard it's nice.
But, but we saw this house. It was like $54,000 or something, like US. And I looked at it and I was like, that's a 4-bedroom, 2-story house with 20-foot ceilings in the middle of the woods overlooking a lake.
God.
I think I want to move to that place. So, yeah,
that is insane.
Yeah, we're like nutting our pants to get the hell out of here. Because, I'm married to a Puerto Rican broad.
Yes.
And her kids are all Puerto Rican. And we're like, we need to get the fuck out of this crazy place. Because we don't know if a cop's going to pull over our kid when he gets old and fucking shoot him.
Yeah.
So it's a legitimate concern. We're looking to Toronto and we're looking to Canada being like, can we get asylum?
Oh, really? That's the thing you're going for? Getting asylum?
Well, they might qualify for it. I'll have to get some kind of like work visa or something, but
okay. Yes. They can be quite strict with their visas in Canada, from my experience. Because I'm here on a work visa myself.
I imagine especially strict with the U.S. people. Just going, I don't know if we want you people here.
So I actually found it quite interesting. We were going to have this conversation last week, but on the time you rescued a kitten, I think, wasn't it? You found a kitten on the way home.
Yeah, that little... No, he was actually in the engine block of my car. He was like right underneath of it, or she, I should say.
Oh.
It was like right underneath of us. We were trying to get her out so that we can use the fucking car and without grinding up a kitten into it.
Oh, God.
And we got her out, and then I was like, well, now it needs shots. So we went to the vet, and we did that all day. And then we brought it back home, and I was like, okay, now we need to give it medicine. And then by the time I realized what time it was, I was like, oh, shit, I was supposed to do an interview today.
Oh, yeah, it's perfectly fine. What I found quite funny was you said, oh, sorry, can't make it today of rescuing this kitten. And then you said, I can't do tomorrow, I'm getting married, but the day after's fine.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, like, a wedding, you probably take a couple days off, not just the one.
No. We just went to the building, the building where it gets done, and we signed the papers and moved on with our day.
Oh, that did make me laugh. So we'll do it next week. You can enjoy your wedding day.
Yeah.
And
no, we definitely weren't like, she wants to do a ceremony at some point, and I'm like, okay, that's fine, we can waste our money.
Yes. I'm not wasting any money. You got your papers. Be happy with it, lass.
Yeah, I got what you want. What else do you need from me?
You're in the will, for God's sake. Yeah.
Yeah, love. No. But it's been an eventful week.
It has. And
and I had to put out a video.
Yeah, oh my God. Postpone the wedding. Got to get the video out.
Yeah.
And I think it's also quite eventful as well, because when I do these interviews, these chats, I like to get the statistics of the YouTubers and present them at the very start, which we kind of skipped over because it's fine. But they've ticked up since we last spoke. Last week when I got this information at hand, you had 95.8 thousand subscribers on YouTube, and you were just below 7 million views. But now that I looked at it earlier, you're over 72,000 subscribers on YouTube, and you've ticked over to 7.2 million views, which is a fantastic achievement, if I do say so myself.
Would you say 72,000?
Sorry, 7.2 million. Oh, sorry.
7.2 million.
Yeah, 7.2 million views, sorry, and 97.2 thousand subscribers.
I was about to break out in a cold sweat and shit. Like, oh my god, how did I lose 20,000 subscribers? What the fuck happened?
No, you're getting very close to the 100K.
Oh yeah, no, I'm getting close to whatever the button they send out or whatever.
Yeah, they didn't send me one when I got to 100. I think I must have got lost somewhere.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if it's like what's the lowest form of metal you can buy? You got gold, silver, bronze. I don't know what's the
tin.
Tin. Yeah, a tin badge. Yeah, no, I never got mine.
Yeah, when I was just starting, I think the first video I did, legitimately did, was probably the Dishonored one, and then I didn't do anything for months, and then I put out the Morrowind video, Morrowind versus Skyrim, I think, and I think I had 20 subscribers at the time, and I was like, ooh, cool, I got 2 more subscribers.
Double digits.
Whoa. And then one day I put out the hypernormalization video, and I came into work, and it was just like any other day, and I go on my YouTube, and I think at that point I had maybe 100 subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sat down, and it said 1,700, and I was like, what the I was like, that's got to be an error.
Something's wrong. Yeah.
Something's wrong. And then I went to my analytics, and I was like, oh shit, what's happening? I started having a mini panic attack, because I was like, I don't know what to do now. What does this mean?
And do you know what caused that sudden rocket upwards? Was it someone shared on Reddit or something? Or
I can't tell you, man. That's the thing about YouTube. They give you enough information to be stupid, but they don't give you enough information to actually know what you're doing. At least that's how I feel when I interpret the data. I'm just I looked at it and I was like, okay, yeah, so I got 5% of my views from external sources, so that can't be it. So it was all from YouTube suggesting the video and people clicking on it.
Damn.
And I was just like, well, why?
Yes.
Why did this happen? What's different?
Yeah.
And I have these growth periods where it's just oh, tons of growth, but I have absolutely no idea why.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at your statistics right now, you've had some trouble, not some troubles, but some interesting queries for your YouTube search algorithm. In particular, your traffic source for YouTube searches, you had StratEdgy, Shadowrun, StratEdgy Production, Shadowrun Returns, How to Suck Your Own Dick.
Yeah, how to suck your own dick. Apparently that is a term that's searched enough that when people found me, 1% of them, 1% of them came to see if I had a video on it.
And I'm wondering,
so much so that needs to be my April Fool's video, how to suck your own dick.
Oh god, maybe it's because it's strategy. People looking for strategies on how to suck your own dick.
Yeah. I mean, do I put my foot on a table and then put my hands underneath my knees and
pillow
just yank?
somewhere? Yeah, just
Yeah,
yank. Just pull harder.
well, I think that is the first step, obviously.
Yes. Oh, God. And then
the fact that people are looking that up on YouTube is what cracks me up the most. Like, what are you hoping to find?
yeah, some obscure video that hasn't been taken down yet. I mean, don't they know they can just obviously just... There's advertisements everywhere on Pornhub. You can just find the answer for $10. So
yeah, I know. Apparently, there's a pill that can get your dick to like the point where it just lays on your chest.
Exactly, the answer's there. They just got to pay for it.
Yeah. I mean, shit. At that point, if it's that big, you just have to bend over.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Oh God.
Though I don't know how you support blood flow to your brain at that point. But
no.
Hey.
Jeez. Oh God. And looking back at your videos, we talked about the ones have kind of rocketed upwards with loads of views, which has been fantastic for you. Have there ever been any that you've noticed where you released them out into the wild and you thought, oh, I thought this one could have done a little bit better, or maybe it had some negative reception you weren't expecting?
Yeah, Shadowrun.
Really? The one that just released?
Well, yeah. I fully expected it to not do well. Actually, I mean, I was just like, this is what patrons want, so I'm gonna get that for them.
They don't know what they want.
Exactly. Yeah. I fully understood that doing that video was going to net me no ad revenue that month, so I just kind of expected it. But the drug war video has always disappointed me, and the after war video really seriously disappoints me, because those were the two videos that I wanted to take off. I have no stock in that. Like, there's no ads on the after war video. I just want that video to take off because I want people to see the shit that's going on with veterans right now. But unfortunately, I guess if it maybe had a cat in the thumbnail, maybe people would have clicked on it.
Yes.
Yeah. What happens to cats after war?
Yeah. Yes.
Maybe then people would have clicked on it, but that really disappointed me. I thought it was going to do a lot better, but I guess that's why veterans get fucked over the way that they do, because people just don't give a shit.
No, they're not. They don't care about the information that's out there. And genuinely, like, those videos that you did about the more journalistic, political side you were doing for your channel, I genuinely find them the most interesting. They were absolutely fabulous. They're the ones I was very much engrossed in. And I had no idea about the after war for veterans, the genuine issue that was going on with the amount of suicides and people not getting legs, and the government trying to refuse to pay money out to them. I had no idea until I watched your video that this was such a big issue.
Yeah, and that's what hurts me so much about it. I mean, to think that video only got like 7,000 views, and the people who likely watched it already knew it was a problem. Like, that's the thing that hurts me the most about it, because it could have been much better. But thank God Jimmy Fallon gets the fucking trend every month.
Yes.
Good fucking, God, what would we do without fucking Jimmy Fallon?
I know, yeah. And John Oliver, thank God he can present the news to us in a comical way.
Yeah, thank God we can get half the news.
Our comedians give us the news. That's kind of what it branches out to. Our politicians give us the comedy. Our comedians give us the news.
And they all have their own corporate overlords, of which they're fucking bound to. So it's, you're getting half of the information, but at least you get to laugh while you're watching it, right?
Yes.
And I've thought about that for a while, because all the more journalistic stuff that are you hearing that, by the way?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Because I have fucking Twitch alarms going off in the background, and I don't know where they're coming from. Fucking, like, even if OBS doesn't have the alert box up, it just plays in it.
Oh.
Doesn't matter.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
No,
cool.
You're all good.
Nice. Great feature. And the thing that I've thought about is, like, with the more journalistic stuff that I've done in the past, I've always thought about, like, well, what if I just try to be funny? Like, what if I just try to be funny with this stuff? But God, I tackle shit that's not funny.
No, it's
you know what
not.
I mean? Like,
yeah.
How do I be funny about, like, this type of shit? I can't.
I don't think you should be.
I don't possess the ability to make light of the kind of shit I'm talking about. Like, the drug war video for me is, like, I would say probably my favorite video that I've ever done. And I liked the way that people reacted to it. I was pleasantly surprised, because it wasn't It wasn't some like bleeding heart memoir or anything, but it was from the perspective of, I don't think half of America, the half that wants to keep these people out of America, knows exactly what the fuck's going on and why it's going on.
Yes.
And telling it through the lens of prohibition and that we're responsible for it kind of puts it in a different perspective.
Yeah, it makes it more relatable in a way that this is what happened and how it relates to us.
Yeah. And it's not just a statistic. It's like, actual people. People are suffering because of our policies on drugs. Mm-hmm. So, it's something to think about. But yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that those type of videos are the ones that are always the most disappointing, because not only do they take the most amount of time to put together by a fucking wide margin.
Oh yeah.
Like I can never do those videos every 2 weeks. It just is not possible. It takes me 6 months to do those.
Oh dear. I was going to ask, is there a part 2 to After War coming out soon?
Boy, so I'm holding off on doing anything with it right now. I need a much bigger audience before I do something like that, because I don't want it to get buried again.
Mm-hmm. So is that holding off on just After War, or the general, more journalistic side of things? It's just going to be on hold for a little while.
It's going to be on hold until the audience gets a lot bigger. That way I know it's not going to get buried. Because at the time when I was doing those videos, I was having a real hell of a time with YouTube. Like, I was getting 10,000 views on videos that I was just like certain that they would do better than that. But
yeah,
like the YouTube algorithm just didn't favor me that month or that year.
No.
It was like an entire year of that, actually.
Yeah.
And I had thought about just like giving up quite a bit, because you get the problem is that when you're having that problem with YouTube, who do you turn to figure it out? Like, you go to YouTube creators and you go to their page and you watch their videos and they just tell you general shit you already know.
Add tags for more views. That kind of thing. Yeah. Because
meta tags. Make content that people actually want to see. No shit, really? Wow. Huh? God damn. Here I was making content I thought nobody wanted to see. I thought that was the way to success.
How to suck your own dick, apparently, is the next big thing.
I know, yes. Apparently there's a market for it, so we're going to... That's next on the list.
Oh, God. And there was some videos you released... this is a few years back now, so, I'm not trying to put you on the spot or anything, but you did a series of vlogs, about 3 or 4 episodes, and on the last vlog, you said you were having a bit of a rough time. Some negative criticism had been affecting you quite badly. Were you able to get out of that rut quite strongly? And how did your approach change in any way so that doesn't affect you as much anymore?
Well, I've always found that it's not necessarily negative criticism that is what's causing you to feel shitty. It's usually something else. Mm-hmm. And that was the case with me. It was like... 4 years ago, I got out of a 15-year relationship.
Wow.
And I had to start dating again. And let me tell you, the dating pool in Florida, it's you ever seen the movies where like zombies are like crawling out of the ocean? Right? That's the dating pool. That's the dating pool in Florida. Okay. It's just zombies. It's just it's the worst. And I've had a lot of really fucked up relationships in that point, and I was just kind of going through a lot of other tertiary shit. And then I would spend 40 to 60 hours on a video, upload it, and get nothing. And I was just like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
So, and then after Fallout 76, man, after the pain of playing that fucking game.
Oh dear.
Like that, I think that's the vlog you're talking about, right?
Yeah, I think you said you played it so much that you were just kind of done. Like everything had cascaded down.
Oh yeah. I was just like, okay, I think I'm done. And part of that is Bethesda's fault. Like legitimately Bethesda's fault.
The game was so bad.
The game was so bad that I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore.
But you come back stronger.
Yeah. I ironically on Bethesda's back, right? Because the videos the videos that made the channel take off were all Bethesda related. So they giveth and they taketh
yes.
away.
How philosophical. Oh dear. And looking back at some of your other videos as well, your video about hypernormalization, we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. It was 3 years ago. Do you think the themes that were discussed in terms of games are kind of even more normal today? And are there any other trends that you see right now that are becoming normalized that we aren't aware of?
Well, it's a weird question. Because I'm currently playing The Last of Us 2, right?
Okay.
Which is a game that absolutely got raped by the community.
Oh god, it was insane. Absolutely insane.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, a script leaked and then all of a sudden it's going to be a bad game, and then it came out and everybody's like, it's a bad game. And I'm playing it and I'm like, I'm only an hour in, so everybody leave me alone.
Okay.
I'm only an hour in, okay? But I know enough about it because everybody leaked the goddamn script. So you, the internet, you've ruined this fucking game for
all
me.
of you.
All of you. Because I can't now play it from the lens of I don't know what's going to happen. Because I don't like to analyze a game until after I've played it.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm almost always caught off guard by surprise twists in a story, even if it's obvious, because I don't play games that way. But with this one, because I know what happens to Joel, okay?
Yeah.
I get it. And I know what happens in the beginning. I think I pretty much know what happens throughout the entire story now.
Yeah.
Because that one pivotal point is what I think proves the thesis of the story. Like, I think the thesis of the story is violence begets violence begets violence, and it's a never-ending cycle, and it just continues throughout. That's at least what I can gather, right? But there's this trend in video games right now towards more cinematic style of gameplay and less agency, and I hate that. And I think I've been talking about this for years, that I hate it when the game takes control away from me. And I'm looking at video for Cyberpunk 2077, and I'm like, yeah, that's not for me.
No?
I'm looking at like footage for Last of Us 2, and I'm like, I'll play it. You know, like it's like it was like I feel like even The Witcher 3 was sort of responsible for this as well. Like, this was a game that was 50% gameplay and 50% watching cutscenes.
Yes, there was a lot.
And people think just because you pick the dialogue option that you're not in a cutscene, but you are.
Oh yeah,
you're watching
you are.
people. Yeah, you're watching people act out things that you, the player, could be doing, but you're not because you're watching it happen. I hate that. It's a video game. I should be doing these things. And I've seen the opposite trend from places like Larian Studios, where things that they could have scripted out and done through dialogue, they make you do yourself.
Okay.
Like, getting that one quest object and doing the weird thing that you would see a character do in a cutscene. You do the weird thing. That's great. I love that shit. You make me think out of the box. You make me think about what I'm trying to do, what my goal is, and how do I get there. I love that. That's what a game's supposed to be, I think.
Yeah, I think
we're going the opposite direction, and I hate it.
Yeah, I think that's also quite apparent from your recent videos as well. That's a trend you don't agree with, because you make a story from the games to present in your videos, like, we're following this character, this is what they think, this is what they do, which wouldn't work in, like, The Last of Us. You can't do that, can you?
No. I mean, like, basically it would be, not to call him out or anything, don't take it the wrong way, but it would be like Salt Factory, just like explaining to you the series of events that happen in order.
Yeah.
And to me, like, I just can't get into that as a gamer, because I like RPGs for a very specific reason. It's a different reason than I like shooters. Like, my two favorite genres, shooters, RPGs, right? I like RPGs because they let me explore a character. Here's a weird thing that I do. I write books, right? But what I do is I will use a character's journey in a game as a way to inform who that character is in my book. Like, just their actions kind of inform me as to the character themselves, like how they would react in a given situation and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'll do that in like D&D sessions. Like we just had a Pathfinder session where I created a character named Roland, who's an Inquisitor who doesn't speak. His whole order doesn't speak unless they're speaking to each other.
Okay.
And that was really interesting to role play. And it's going to be even more interesting to write, because I have to figure out how do I write a character's dialogue who doesn't speak. You know,
I guess you'd be very descriptive about their actions, the way their eyes move.
Or yeah, like Steinbeck, when he wrote The Pearl, like he had to figure out how to explain a very song-like language between two Native Americans. So he just used like the song of the waves explained how the sea was, you know, how rough or how calm the sea was. And that's very interesting to me. And games allow me to explore ideas that would normally only sit inside my head.
Mm-hmm. And how often do you do writing outside of the context of your videos? Because I know you had a blog a few years back. I'm not sure if you still do that or if you're writing fully fledged books on the side. How much writing would you say you do now?
Well, I would say for about a year while I was doing videos, I was writing a short story a week.
Oh, wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, so sometimes they would be like a 4,000 word story. Sometimes they'd be like 13,000 word stories. I was writing them every week. And it was because I was going to live events and reading them live on stage. So I needed to have a new one every week. Not much lately because my whole entire day and life has been taken up by this channel.
Yes.
But we're trying to get back to it. I was telling my girlfriend about this story idea I had, and she was like, you know, sorry. Fuck, why do I keep saying that? I'm so used to it. Oh my God. I got to stop doing that.
I'll remind you, don't worry. I'll keep you out of trouble.
Yeah, keep me from getting my throat slit in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
I was telling her about it, and she was like, that sounds like a really good game. So I think we're going to try and make a game.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm going to transition to, is just trying to make a game out of these ideas.
And how would you even start doing that? Are you a programmer in any way? Do you know where to start? Or do you You are? Okay.
Yeah, I have a pretty decent programming, but I wouldn't call myself an engineer or anything. But I also know a lot of engineers. So I have a good pool of brain to pull upon, you know, for things that I don't know how to do myself. Yeah,
Fort Dix. You got all those 1970s engineers back there. They can help you.
Well, you know, I got EA engineers.
Yeah.
Who aren't allowed to work on their own stuff. So
hey, perfect.
Why don't you give me a little heads up here? I got this thing. Maybe you wanna like tell me how to do it.
It's about a guy who can't speak.
Yeah. How do I program that?
Yes. Well, you could save money on voice actors. That's always a bonus.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much, I think, the transition I'm going to make at some point here is once the channel's doing really good and I can take see, this is the weird thing. I always feel weird talking about this money thing, but when you're doing it full time, all of your decisions are basically made around that.
Yes.
Because you still got to feed your family and you still got to pay your rent. And the ad revenue dictates so much of what you do. So when you say, oh, I'm going to do a Shadowrun video, it's like, I'll just eat ham and cheese sandwiches for 2 weeks.
Yes.
And you know that going into it. But like, my hope is that the Patreon at some point gets to the point where I don't need to depend on it and I can take my time with the videos, because people always, like, they'll hit me up on the comments and be like, you know, this video would have been better if you would have, like, talked about the ending. And it's like, I don't have time to do that. Like, the last video I talked about three different characters. Like, I did 3 different playthroughs. You imagine how long that would have taken me to do if I was, like, playing it all the way through?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to do it. And I got a 2-week deadline. I got to do all these videos in 2 weeks. So it's really tough.
Have you tried using Ko-fi? I think it's pronounced coffee, but I have no idea. It's Ko-fi. It's another potential source of revenue where people just give you like a tip basically of like $3 without having to be a subscriber on Patreon.
Oh yeah, no, I've heard of it. I haven't used it at all. I tell you right now, I'm looking for something different than Streamlabs for streaming because that shit never works.
I'm not familiar with Streamlabs.
Streamlabs is like what you use for like alerts and donations and all that stuff that you use to handle all that stuff. So, like when an alert pops up and says, you've got a new subscriber.
Oh, that thing. Yeah. I get you.
Yeah, that's what it is. And it never works for me. I swear to God, I'll do a whole stream and I'll have to keep clicking out of the damn game to like refresh the window because it just stops working.
Oh, damn.
It's like you've got one job, man. That's your one job. And you can't do it right.
Oh, dear.
But Ko-fi, I've heard of it. I know that like digital artists and stuff use that for, getting tips or getting commissions and whatnot.
Yeah, it can be good if people want to, throw a few bucks your way, but don't want to, be a subscriber for whatever reason. So it can be quite handy, different strokes, different folks. But yeah, in terms of that streaming stuff, like if you don't shout out somebody in 10 seconds when they join, they're gone forever. Like,
pretty much.
You got to be on it. You're doing more streaming now. I think you've noticed that you're doing a bit more recently.
Yeah. So like I everything is just like, how do we sustain the business? Because I don't want to lose the business and have to like go back to a real job.
Yeah, that's good. Well, back to the army for you.
Yeah, back to EA.
Yeah, crawl back to your staff sergeant. Pick up the badge.
We were like, okay, so how do we kind of leverage Twitch to do the footage for the videos that we're making? So I'll stream now, like I'm doing Fallout 2, so I'm streaming that. So I stream all the gameplay footage that I'll then use in the video that I make. Mm-hmm. And the idea behind that is like you get people in the Twitch chat who tell you to do certain things and then you do it and now it's immortalized in the video and gives people a reason to come, and it's just a way for me to leverage two different revenue sources doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And do like 4 hours of that, and then I'll write for 2 hours, and then I'll edit for 2 hours, and that's kind of how I'm approaching it. And it's working out pretty good so far. I mean, I've been able to put out these huge fucking videos every 2 weeks. Yeah,
it's going quite well. And you also upgraded your recording studio recently. What did you upgrade exactly?
So I spent way too much money. I bought a isolation booth.
Oh, is that like an actual booth, like a box or something from the picture?
Yep.
I thought it was like a room, and I thought you may have put soundproofing on the walls or something.
No, it's an actual room within a room. It's
oh my God.
It's about 4 foot by 6 foot long, and it's just solid wood panels with a bunch of soundproof on it, and that's where I am right now talking to you. It gets super hot in here. I'm not gonna lie. It's the ventilation is not the best.
No, it's pretty warm here as well. I'm trapped in a tiny room with no air conditioning, so I don't have any background noise. the pain we go through as artists for our art.
I know, right?
Have you noticed a big improvement with the whole setup? Like, has it been noticeable when you listen back to your recordings? Getting better sound quality and stuff from this booth.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed that. Well, first off, I managed to get my room without the booth pretty soundproofed to the point where I wasn't getting a lot of echoes.
Yep.
The problem when you have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old is that they don't know how to shut up.
No.
So I needed an isolation booth where I could do my work and not get distracted and not pick up, like when I need to record, they don't have to leave the house.
Yes.
Because that's what I was doing for a while. I was like, you guys need to leave.
Yes. Go outside and don't talk to strangers.
Yeah, Daddy needs to make money. Goodbye.
Now Daddy's in the box, so go away.
Yeah, exactly. So I could sit in the box and I could do all my work, and I don't get distracted, and I can record anytime I want. So that's always really good. because now I'm finding that I get these ideas as I'm recording things, or as I'm editing, or as I'm playing, and now I can like capitalize on it immediately. I don't have to wait to do the bit or whatever. I will say the one thing that I'm really missing is the ability to do those skits. Those skits were great. I miss them. I want to do them again. But it's like I have to ask myself, do I sacrifice the quality of the analysis of the video, or do I add this skit in there?
Yes, bit of comical effect.
Yeah, because I had this idea where you remember Joe Montana football?
Let me Google it. I think it kind of vaguely rings a bell, but carry on while
I'm asking a Canadian about American football.
I'm British. So,
British,
yeah,
too.
but I got no idea.
A British person who lives in Canada about American football.
Yeah.
It's like doubly stupid.
All I know is the Packers, because I went to Wisconsin to visit a friend, and they gave me like a Packers neck chain and some cards and a hat. So I'm officially a Packers fan.
Shoved it all down your throat. Just shoved it all down your throat.
That's my allegiance.
Well, okay, so EA put out John Madden, but they also had another company on the side called Blue Sky, who put out Madden, and or not Madden, Joe Montana's football, and that was for Sega Genesis. So you got these two competing titles, right? And I was thinking about it, and I was like, what if I did a skit where it's like Fallout California, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout Miami, but I just did Fallout Montana, and the big reveal is that it's Joe Montana, and he goes, "Hi, I'm Joe Montana," or no, "Hi, I'm being told that my name is Joe Montana, and I don't know where the hell I am right now," and they just play him up as like, like a punch drunk dude who's just too old to remember his own name, and I was trying to do it in the Fallout 4 engine, and man, not fun. Not fun doing machinima in Fallout 4. No, I couldn't get it done in time. I was so upset.
Oh dear.
I was like, do I delay the video for this dumbass?
For Joe Montana.
For this dumbass skit? No, I can't do that.
Oh god. And when you're researching the topics for your videos, for example, the surprise mechanics of addiction with loot boxes. Have you ever noticed yourself changing in any way, or your perceptions changing about things from the research that you've done?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I previously held beliefs kind of just melt away. I find myself more accepting of new ideas now because, I mean, I have to be.
Yeah.
The research is all there, and if I'm doing the research and I'm seeing the data points, I can either just sit there and go, nah, I can't hear you, or I can accept it.
Yes, I'm in my box, blah blah blah.
Yeah. I mean, the surprise mechanics of addiction, man, that was 4 books worth of research just on that topic alone, just on the topic of expert intuition.
Yeah.
And you've got Blink, which is a book by Malcolm McDowell, I believe is his name. And then you've got the Kahneman book, which I can't remember the name of it now. The Power of Habit, and like one other book about habit and how the brain works to create myelin on the certain neural pathways for things that you're doing often, and how all of that works together to create bias and addiction and habit, and why once a thing is a habit, real fucking hard to break because you've already trained your brain to do it for so long. And, funny story, my kids have just started playing Fortnite.
Okay.
And I don't know why originally I was so against it. Because I was like telling my wife now, who's now my wife.
Yes.
I said, I don't think we should be letting them play this game. And she was like, why? I was just like, well, it's got loot boxes, and I know they're not going to buy the loot boxes, but there's just something about it that I can't quite put my finger on that I'm not happy with them doing. And what it was that they were getting addicted to it, so addicted to it, in fact, that when we tried to have them do anything but play that, they got awful as people. They just became awful human beings.
Oh dear.
And it's that dopamine scheduling that it plays havoc on a little kid's brain, which is why no kid should be playing these fucking games. They shouldn't be. It plays havoc with their neural pathways. It creates habits that no child should have. Gambling addiction, all this stuff, it doesn't surprise me that it went up in recent years. It makes sense. We're training these kids from childhood to pull on that handle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And are they still allowed to play Fortnite, or is that off the table?
No, I took them off all their Switches. I took them off.
And do they play any games at all anymore? Or is it kind of like, okay, you got to wait a few years before we jump into this?
Well, we kind of make them earn game time. And when they earn it, then they can play as long as they want. They can play on their Switch. But the minute they fuck up, we're right there on them. Give me that shit.
Yeah, my dad does the same thing. Gotta do the dishes or else no game time for me.
No, really? Still, huh?
Yeah. He's worried about my neural pathways. It's very considerate.
Yeah, no, I definitely worry about it because I've seen just what it does to them, just in how they get aggressive and how aggressive they get with each other and how they get aggressive with us. Yeah. And we're just like, yeah, I'm not having any of that shit.
No, it's not happening to me. I had a friend who was like that who... lovely guy. He's a really good friend of mine. Really nice dude. Very considerate. But just when he plays games, he gets angry. And it's like if he's losing for whatever reason, and I just leave the game and be like, okay, I'm going. I'll play single player for a bit because.
Oh yeah. No, I've lost friends over that kind of shit where they're losing their ever loving mind over a game, and they're like screaming at you because, oh, you should have got that Genji, you asshole. It's like, fuck you, man. This is a game.
You ruined it.
You act like I took 2 inches off of your dick.
Yes.
Calm down.
See, exactly another reason why you got to make that video.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. All coming full circle. And a few years ago, I was watching your video about the Outer Wilds, and you were talking about an experience you had with heart surgery.
That wasn't a few years ago. That was a few months ago.
A few months ago. I'm sorry. And how are you doing now? Is that cleared up? Are you still recovering?
Dude, I feel like a 20-year-old. It's crazy.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah. I had Kawasaki's disease, and it ballooned the 2 main arteries off of my heart, and I never knew any of this stuff. I just knew I had Kawasaki's disease. I had no idea what the hell that meant.
Yeah.
Right. Until I got older and I started having this really weird chest pain that would never go away. And it would happen if I just would walk 20 or 30 feet. And I would throw up all the time. I mean, I was vomiting. I would walk down a street and I wouldn't get more than half the block down before I would vomit in the middle of the fucking street. Yeah. It was awful. And she was my girlfriend at the time. She was like, okay, you are having heart failure. And I was like, how do you know this? She's like, my dad went through the same exact thing. So we went to the doctor. I went to so many doctors. I had to, because every one of them was giving me Wellbutrin, stress medication, anti-anxiety medication. There's it's all in your mind. There's nothing wrong with you. You're 40 years old. There's nothing wrong with you. I'm like, bro, there's something fucking wrong with me, yes. Motherfucker. This is not in my head.
Walking doesn't stress me.
Yeah, that's not a stressful activity. Yeah. So eventually I went to this cardiologist and he started saying the same shit. And I was like, okay, babe, what do we do? She's like, go to the hospital right now and tell them you're having chest pains. So we went to the hospital, told them we were having chest pains, and they admitted me right away and then did a cath, which is where they go up through your leg, up into your heart, and shoot dye into it.
Okay.
And then they can see the arteries, and they were like, yep, there it is. There's those 2 arteries that are fucked up.
Oh, God.
And they're like, okay, well, the only choice that we had, because usually when they're in there, they can do a stint, and they can put the heart cath through your artery, and they can stint the occlusion and make it wider so you're not feeling chest pains.
Are they effective though? I've heard they may not be great stints.
They're not great, no, because like in like 10 or 15 years, you got to go back in and get cracked open again.
Yeah.
They were like, we have no choice. You're about 99% occluded, so we have to go in and do a double bypass. And I found out through this whole process that the reason it was like this is that my mom was given a choice when I was 3 years old. They were like, we can open him up right now and we can do the bypass now, but every 5 years you'll have to bring him in to do it again. Or you can feed him a lot of cheese and a lot of fatty foods and start to occlude it so that the aneurysm doesn't get big and explode. And then at some point when he's 25, he'll probably have a heart attack. So
God,
I didn't know any of this shit.
Jesus.
But I mean, because I was such an active person and was never really the fat schlub that I am now, because of this heart disease. Like, I mean, I was literally unable to work out for like 2 years because of this shit.
Mm-hmm.
It took me until 40 to have any really ill effects. But when I think about it, I've been feeling these effects probably for about 12 years because I haven't been exactly top-notch shape. Like I remember there was a time when I was working out 4 or 5 hours a day and I was unable to get below 180. And I couldn't figure out why. And now, dude, I'm faster, stronger, and in better health than I've been probably since I was in my 20s.
Damn. That's incredible to hear. And are you still able to like work out now, or is it because once you've had this surgery you have to kind of keep it easy for the next few years or for the rest of your life, or are you kind of back to normal and you can jump around and do what you want?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm back to normal, basically. Like, my sternum was the biggest part that needed to heal because they literally saw you open.
Oh, jeez.
So that bone had to heal. And now that that's healed and I don't feel the pain there anymore, I can go back and, like, hit the heavy bag and whatever.
Yeah,
and
jump
do
off
actual
trees.
exercise.
Yeah.
Oh, I ain't going to be doing that shit anytime soon. I can tell you that.
Just for fun, not for stunts, just for fun.
Yeah. No. I'm over that point in my life. I don't know. Once you have like a taste of your own mortality, you kind of go, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good.
Bit of perspective, yeah. One of the episodes you did for your videos, the more journalistic style of things, was the problems for education, problematic education. After you did your research on that and the things you found out for that video, what do you think the solution to those problems in the educational system in the US is? What could they do to alleviate these problems?
Well, so as you can imagine, there's not just one problem. There's so many, because the nature of the way we do business here is that we pile on regulation after regulation after regulation, to the point where navigating the laws is like trying to untangle fucking Christmas lights.
Yeah.
And with the school system the way it is right now, is what specific problem? How about that? Let's tackle it from that. So what specific problem do you mean?
So I suppose one problem that's kind of in the public eye right now, I suppose, is a way of phrasing it, is, say, funding for black Americans compared to more affluent white Americans for educational funding for their children, something like that.
Right. So the reason that happens is that all of the money gets pulled into districts, and then these districts decide where that money goes. Schools that go charter don't have that problem because all the money goes directly to the charter, and they spend it however they want. I'll do you one better. I actually hinted at it in the very first video when Thomas Sowell was talking. The voucher program that he has always been a huge proponent of, I think, can solve quite a few problems. Not to mention the desegregation, it can solve segregation, which is what it is right now. Let's face it, like schools are highly segregated right now.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's all because of districting and gerrymandering and shit, and rich people wanting to not be around poor people.
Yes.
Imagine that. Vouchers can fix that, because then those kids can then move around to other schools as long as the parents have a way to get them there. In California, for instance, kids used to take public transportation to their schools because they didn't want to go to the school that was in their district. They went on a bus and, walked a couple of blocks to the school. And I know that that's not the best solution to their problem, but it's a better solution than having to go to the schools that are in some of those neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
The other problem that it solves is that you now have a choice. You could go to that school down the street, or you can go to another school. Right now in many states, these people don't have any choice. They have to go to the school that the county or the district assigns them, and that's it. They don't have school choice. With a voucher program, it also makes the schools competitive, so the schools have to compete with each other for students. So that means a lot of schools in inner cities that are already struggling are going to get shut, or they're going to get shut down. They're already going to get shut down, actually, as it is with the system that's currently in place. They don't really stand a chance. They're just kind of limping along. Meanwhile, the kids that are going to those schools are suffering because their education is absolute dog shit tier. And it's the school's fault, because they have to do things, because they're so broke at this point. They have to do things like print out pages from a book instead of giving them a book.
Yeah, God.
Yeah. Like some of the schools in Detroit, for instance, are so bad that I don't know how anybody comes out of that with an education.
No. I think the American system is... those issues are much more apparent in the American system, say somewhere like the UK. We do have our problems as well, obviously. But it seems like in America, it's just so... You have these extremely poor schools that are mostly, say, black Americans, and there's that segregation, as you say. And it just seems incredible, what they have to go through. Sometimes you see pictures of them being metal detectors at schools, because people are bringing guns. It's unfathomable. I can't even imagine something like that happening.
And then you got the gun problem, right? But that's apparently that's not a problem.
No, they don't have enough guns.
We don't have enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem is that we need more. We need more to protect people, because a bullet was never fired from a knife, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
So the voucher program can fix quite a few problems in terms of funding, but then you still have a problem with the curriculum. And as I kind of hinted on in the indoctrination episode of that series, that is the far worse problem.
Oh, it seemed bad
to me, because I think in science and math we're 30th in the world.
God, okay.
We're like number 1 for wealth, but 30th in the world for math and science. How the hell does that work?
Yeah.
How do you train a society of people to be the world's next, scientists and engineers if they can't do math? If Bosnia is ahead of us in math.
Damn Bosnia.
What? It doesn't make any sense. A country whose GDP is half our GDP has a better education system than us? That's insane.
Crazy. Or the clip in your video of... I forgot the name of the person doing this, but it was request to change the word hip hop to country music.
Yeah. Well, those are two interchangeable fucking words for the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's because they want to erase black people from the teaks as much as they can, and it's the same thing with Mexican American studies as well. They want to wipe Hispanics from the teaks. They don't want them in there. For their own various reasons, but I mean, if I know anything about the Christian right in this country, it usually has to do with that. It usually has to do something with white supremacy and the link between them and the Christian coalition here in America.
It seems strange that the U.S. education system would not talk about Mexican history in some regard at all, because it's such a big part of the history.
Well, especially in Texas.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's like the majority of the students who go to school in Texas schools are Mexican. So, huh?
Yeah. Gloss
you know,
over that.
And of course, like, you know, I catch a lot of shit for saying that in the video, like in the comments, and it's just like, well, dude, like, tell me where my numbers are fucking wrong. The U.S. Census shows it. You know, the majority of kids that go to schools by a large margin are Hispanic in origin. So why the hell wouldn't you teach them their own history?
Yeah, you're not saying it's a bad thing. It's just a fact, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the same thing kind of happens in the UK as well. It's slightly different, but there's kind of this, the far left push for equality and equity in that kind of thing. So I'm not going to go into that in detail, but in the UK, the class and the type of people that are actually performing worse in schools are white boys compared to other ethnicities. So like the percentage of white boys that go to university in the UK is the lowest compared to, say, black girls, black boys, Asian kids. But because it's white boys, nobody will talk about it, you know? And it's what the data's showing, but people choose to ignore it because, you know, otherwise you come off as a racist. There you go.
Well, that's super strange. Yeah, I mean, and the UK, I can kind of understand that because they have anti-hate laws. And when you have anti-hate laws, you tend to marginalize the people who are often associated with the brunt of the hate, right? It's like like in this country, white people are pretty much the brunt of the hate being given to black people, to Hispanics in this country. White people are usually to blame for the hate that's being given, right? So therefore, your voice is minimalized. There's a lot less that you can say than the oppressed class can, right? But that's kind of natural. You kind of expect that.
Yes.
Because it's in a way, it's an overcompensation to compensate for what has happened. So I personally don't see a problem with that, because it's like if you are a part of the racial majority, you've already been given so much of a privilege over and I know I'm going to catch so much shit for saying this. It's so hilarious. I mean, it's just, it seems like it would be common sense. Like if you're in charge of a company, right? And you and your family own most of the stock in that company, then you get to make decisions for that company. Right? And other people who are a part of your family who don't work for that company, you might give them jobs working in that company. Right? Because they're your family, right? Well, it's the same kind of thing. It's just an implicit bias. It's just, you know, if you're white, you might have an implicit bias towards white people. And that's just like kind of how our brains are wired to work. It's a survival thing. And people who deny it are, in a way, they're denying it because they don't want to admit that maybe they've made the same mistake at one point or another.
Oh, yeah, and there's evidence for it as well. I forget the specific study, but I did read about it where in the UK they sent off job applications to exactly the same job applications for the same position. And the one where the name was something like Mohammed, you know, someone's name was Mohammed, and the other person was like Mr. Smith. The one that was Mr. Smith would get like double the callbacks, even if it was the exact same resume, CV. And it does, you know, it does affect people. And for me personally, in these type of situations, I think South Park really sums it up quite well. Strangely enough, is that there was a scene where it was actually about black violence, I believe, and Stan was trying to apologize to Token about how his dad was behaving on Wheel of Fortune. But the ending kind of summed up where he just said, Token, I get it now. I don't get it. And like, you know, that was his summary. Is like, I don't understand what you're going through because I haven't been through it. And it's something that I will never understand. And that's kind of how I feel, is like, I know that there they're these things that are against these certain racial groups in our society, but I haven't experienced it, so it's hard for me to relate to it. So you have to actively think about things that say I'm more privileged for compared to somebody else of a different race.
Yeah, and I think it's hard to kind of deny it now at this point. There's so much video of it literally happening before people's eyes. I think it's hard to deny it, but people still find a way. They still find a way to deny it, and it's like I said, the brain is so complex in its ability to create mental barriers to protect the person for whose body it exists in. You know,
yes.
like I say in I don't know what video. I think it's probably the addiction one.
Yep.
Your mind will come up with all kinds of rationalizations. Oh no, it was in the I don't know if you've ever seen any of the Ranegy's. Have you seen any of the old Ranegi videos?
Ranegi?
Yeah.
Not quite sure. To have to scroll through. I watched most of the video. Oh, Ranegi.
There's one called Resistance to Change. And it's more like the kind of videos I do now where it's mostly comedic, but there was a lot of research done into this specific topic. Well, this one was about resistance to change. And people's fight or flight instinct literally kicks in when their ideas or beliefs are challenged. So when somebody is being told that some belief that they have is wrong and somebody provides evidence for it, the fight or flight instinct kicks in. Adrenaline overrides the part of your brain that would normally be rational and thinking, and you start to come up with rationalizations for why they're wrong. And most of the time it sounds ridiculous, but that's what happens to people. The rational part of their brain just turns off and they go into fight or flight mode.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah. So when you're confronting people with this long-held notion that, you know, there is no white privilege or whatever, when you're confronting that and then you show them something that directly contradicts that, they'll wait for evidence to come around to then justify the previously held belief. Like, oh, look, they're rioting now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, we knew it was coming. Look what happened.
Oh, yeah, see, told you.
Yeah, tearing down statues.
And it's like, no, idiot, like, that's happening because they're oppressed, and when you're oppressed long enough, you usually blow up on the nearest thing around you. Like, studies have shown that oppressed minorities in any country usually target themselves because it's what's closest. It's an outlet for their anger. You know, that's how that works, because they can't take their anger out on the people who are actually doing it to them. That's why you see, like, so many people just sit around and watch these cops beat the shit out of people in these riots. It's because they feel like they can't take their anger out on them, but they could. You outnumber them. Get them!
Yeah.
Like, I'm sitting there watching the video like, get them! Get them! There's only 10 of them! Just take them out,
There's
man! You can do
thousands
it!
of you.
Yeah, there's like hundreds of you guys. Just fucking get them!
Get them.
Because, like, I think at a certain point when you've got police are like the military, okay?
Mm-hmm.
They're told what to do, and they go out and they do it, right?
Yeah.
But the problem with police is that they live amongst the people they're supposed to be policing for long enough that they either develop empathy, which is rare, or they develop antipathy? I don't know if I'm using that word right. They develop anger towards that community.
Okay.
And that's typical. Like, they just develop an anger and a resentment towards the community that they have to police because they've seen so many horrible fucking things. Like, imagine what a cop has to see on a daily basis. I've heard a story. I don't know if this was in a movie, but it was a true story that they based this on.
Okay.
I was listening to the director's comments on it. There was a story about a methamphetamine addict who had a baby, and they took the baby out of the sink because they were washing it in the sink, and it was crying because it was cold, so they decided to warm the baby up in the microwave.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah.
That's terrible. Jesus Christ.
So imagine being a cop fucking stumbling across that. Like, I hinted on it in the after war video, but those cops have PTSD. They have it, and it's untreated because of the nature of being a cop. It is probably the most testosterone fueled profession out there. You can't possibly be any more fucking manly than a cop or a fireman.
Yes, yeah.
So these guys do not go and get help when they need it. And then they end up blowing up on somebody, or they end up quitting, or, which is the better choice, of course.
Yes, if you had to pick one of those two.
Yeah. But, I mean, the anger starts to build up so much that, it's only a matter of time before they end up killing somebody that didn't deserve it.
Yes, yeah. And look what happens when they do. That's what we're going through right now.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. It's interesting time to be alive. I'll say that much.
Well, definitely isn't. There's definitely no shortage of shit to talk about.
No. Just go on BBC News. There'll be a headline we can talk about. And I think to finish this up, I had one last question for you today. I was watching your How to Skyrim video, and you did an amazing impression of Nixon. And I was wondering if you could do it again for us. Live on this chat, because I laughed so much when you did that.
Let's see. Goddamn hippies!
Okay, can you do the riddle with phlebitis?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And riddled with phlebitis.
There we go. Thank God Dad's in his box. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you so much for coming along and having this chat. I've had a wonderful time. And everybody
I appreciate it, man.
They can find you on Twitter, they can find you on Patreon, they can find you on YouTube, they can find you on Twitch, and maybe Pornhub with your next video on
coming soon.
Yes.
Yeah,
coming soon.
Coming soon. How to suck your own dick.
Thank you so much.
All right, man. Thanks.